Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom.
Hello everyone and welcome to our channel. If you're new here, I'm Mom or Kay from Millennial Mom, and today we're going to talk about Married at First Sight Denver, season 17, episode 5, Take Me Down to Paradise City. Now, if you haven't already joined the channel, please consider subscribing. Welcome. Join the family. Hit that like button as well. Subscribe, leave your comments, and let me know what you think about these couples during this honeymoon in this episode, because in my opinion, there's two couples where the tension is rising. And I also believe for one couple, the tension may actually tip the scale whether they stay together or not real early. All right, so let's get started. So on this episode, the couples are on their honeymoons in Cancun, trying to figure out each other and, see where the vibe is, not just with them, but with other couples. So they meet together in the lobby for some light appetizers and a little small talk before they break out into their own honeymoon, individual honeymoons, I should say, right? So there's quick scenes with the couples, and they talk about what they expect to happen and what is the vibe and anything that they want to do and how they're feeling about being married. So Lauren starts off the conversation. She tells the group that she's already sexually attracted to Orion, and Orion says the same for him. He's sexually attracted to his wife as well. We also have Emily that says that so far things have exceeded her expectations. And I'm surprised she said that, because Emily, who has never been in a relationship before, and all of a sudden you're now a wife, you're married, things have exceeded your expectations. I think, just again, my opinion, it's surface level, but we'll have to see as the show goes on. Then we have Clare and Cameron. They say they're both different people, but Claire said even though that they're opposites do attract. So she's looking forward to see what's going to happen, and maybe that spark will ignite on the honeymoon. Now, Cameron is saying the same things in a little bit of a different way. He's also hoping that there's a spark that ignites on the honeymoon as well. Now, when it gets to Becca and Austin, okay, they high five. They say, nailed it. Go ahead and move to the next, because guess what? We're doing good over here. We married the same person, so we don't know what y'all got going on, but hey, this is us right here. Now, in confessional, Cameron says that he's a bit envious over the connection that Becca and Austin already have. And I'm like, why would you be a bit envious already? Yes, there's not really that big of a spark or anything right now with Claire, but I mean, it's someone else's relationship. I mean, what's for them is for them. What's for you is for you. All right, so I'm going to get into the couples and what happened on the honeymoon, couple by couple, instead of show order this time, because it did a lot with just the individual couples and not a lot of interacting outside of the appetizers and the expectations with all the couples. So first up, I'll start with Becca and Austin. So again, they're still vibing. They're on a high with each other. And I like their connection, even though, they say, I feel like I married the same person. And, we're like two peas in a pod, twinsies, whatever. But I can see that there is more of a couple connection than a friendship. They're not in the friend zone. They haven't friend zone each other. I do think they balance each other out. As a matter of fact, Austin and Becca mentioned the same thing. Yes, even though we're weird, we're nerdy, there's a good balance of what's happening in our relationship so far. So for their activities out in Cancun, to start off, they go on a small boat cruise around the lake. They get out, even though it's raining, they still decide, hey, let's go and enjoy our activity, because it's probably a scheduled excursion, okay? So they are just hugged up and just really just talking and connecting. No real back and forth with them, no real, misunderstanding. They just are coming on a level of making this marriage work for the long term. So when they do come off that boat ride and later go to a lunch, that's when a little bit more in-depth conversation comes out with what were you like as a child. So Becca asked that to Austin first. He said he was a little bit of a wild child. And she goes, yeah, that's what your mom told me at the reception. He goes, well, yeah, I was, but I wasn't out of control. You know, I just was out there doing my thing. Austin goes on to say that he was an only child and that he wished for siblings along the way. So I think maybe Austin was trying to say that maybe he was wild to get the attention of maybe his mom or his friends because he didn't have anyone to, you know, bounce off of when he came home. Like, you know, if you have a brother or sister, whether you have one, two, or multiple, you know, you can talk to them, or maybe, you know, you have, depends on how close in age you are, you might have a relationship where if you're older, you may look at them as a mother or father figure, or if they're younger, close to age. I mean, hey, siblings fight, and as they get older, hopefully they get past that and get along. So I think maybe Austin was longing for that type of connection. Now, when it came to Becca, she said that she grew up privileged, okay? But at the same time, she said she had good friends, great household, great opportunities. But then she said that she had her wild child years during middle school and high school. And I'm thinking, well, if you grew up privileged, you had wild, you know, things with your friends. Yes, you can. Just because, you know, you have a silver spoon or whatever in your mouth doesn't mean you can't be wild. But I mean, just the way that Becca described it, I was like, I'm going to need just a little bit more of why you consider yourself a wild child, because she also said that she was a good kid. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to see what she meant, but hey, look at her now. She seems like she's a great adult that bloomed into an awesome woman. So Austin and Becca are saying different things as well, like having children down the line. Austin said because he was single, well, an only child, that he can see himself having at least two children. So, you know, one of the siblings wouldn't be lonely from what he felt. And so when Becca asked, well, how soon do you want to have these kids? He said, well, not for at least 2 to 3 years or more, because, hey, you know, I want to learn my wife. I want to date you first. And I think that's great. You know, when you get married, I mean, having kids right away can really take time away, because then you are focused on the kids and you may not have had enough time with just me and you, if you know what I'm saying. So then Becca said that eventually she would want kids, but she hadn't really thought about it either way, and she wasn't opposed to having one or maybe adopting in the future. So, I mean, I think that with Becca's medical conditions, she's a little bit apprehensive. And I think with her telling Austin about her medical conditions, that at least putting on the table, they can start to see where they are when it comes to maybe having a family in the future, if it gets to be that far. Now, Becca tells Austin, you know, hey, and if we do have kids, buckle up. So now later in the evening, Becca and Austin are at the pool. Austin is the only one in the pool. Becca says she's not feeling good. She just recently had surgery, and being in the water wouldn't be the best for her. And Austin said he understands, no reason to apologize, and he's here for her and he supports her. All right, let's move to Emily and Brennan. So Emily, the party girl, is at breakfast with her man. Now, Emily is saying to Brennan, like, you know what? Oh, Brennan, you know, I want you to know that, you know, my hand is hurting and I just didn't want you to know. But did you hear that boop last night? And Brennan said, no, what are you talking about? So Emily describes that they had a PG shower. I guess that was her way of letting us know that they didn't do anything intimate, because Emily told us before she got to Cancun that she was bringing all her adult toys just in case it went there. So apparently Emily went to go get some towels after their PG shower, she puts it, and she slips on the floor and she fell and hurt her hand. But she's at the breakfast in the morning telling Brennan that she can't feel her hand and didn't want to tell anyone about it because she didn't want to kill the vibe. I'm like, Emily, no, ma'am. So you don't want to kill the vibe, so your hand might be broken, because Emily suspects it might be. She can't feel it, but you wouldn't want to kill the vibe with Brennan, like he would think of you differently because you hurt your hand. Okay, girl. I mean, that's your logic. That's your logic. So, anyways, Brenda says, well, bottom line is like, well, you're a trooper. And that she just kept having breakfast and they just were talking as if like nothing was happening while Emily had her hand in her hand, the one that's bothering her. So, also, I think that Brennan, because Emily keeps telling us about, PG showers and, she's attracted to Brennan too. Matter of fact, she said that on the reception. I think that Brennan is like temperature checking her a little bit. He's taking his time more to get to know Emily and her vibe. I'm not sure if he likes her or not. I'm not picking up any energy of whether he likes her or not. I get like he's just like putting the brakes on it for right now, because maybe Emily's energy is just like over the top. Yes, she's loud, she's bubbly, but it's laughing and bubbly to me in a way that's not necessarily genuine. So I think maybe Brennan is picking up on that. Now, during breakfast, they also get to talking about where do they see themselves going for the future, and what are they expecting out of life in general. Emily says that she has a hard time shutting her laptop down. She's into working. She said, because there's always money to be made. And Brenda said, oh, you know what? I like that. That's not really a big deal for me because, hey, my mom worked for 30 plus years at her job. So I get, getting the bag. And so also, too, I recall that Emily's friends and family said that was part of Emily's, I was going to say one of her things, but I can't think of the word, but one of her things that she does that could possibly be, a hindrance during the vows. And so Emily mentions that work-life balance and that she's, into making money, but at the same time, she doesn't know where her money goes. And she even said that she doesn't know or isn't good at math. I'm like, well, first of all, what do you do for work? One, just out of curiosity. Two, if you're into making money, and even though, yes, you work, you should be able to work and play, right? And still have money for bills and responsibilities. But if you don't know math or you're not good at it, then is somebody helping you, or are you just spending whatever you spend and that's it? And that's why you're working so much, to replace the money you have. So I don't know, Emily, it's not making sense to me what you're saying about the make money, but you spend money and you don't know math very well. All right, but Brennan says that he'll have to help her with that, and accounting Brennan on the way. And Emily's like, you know what? Yeah, because with your job. Well, excuse me. Also, Brennan explains not just he would help Emily with the accounting, of her money, but Brennan said that he has, for his career and his money, he just stack. So he has a big savings, and he's not used to spending money the way Emily does. And Emily's like, well, you know what? You stacking money and you helping me audit. Hey, we could be a power couple. And Brennan was cool with that. Now, later in the afternoon, Emily and Brennan go for drinks. And apparently, Brennan doesn't really know party girl Emily. Like we saw party girl Emily at the bachelor party. Well, I guess Brennan thinks that they'll just have like one drink and then go do whatever activity they have for the rest of the day. Oh, no. The waitress brings out at least a good 8 shots with the limes and the oranges and everything. And Brendan's like, we're going to do all these? Emily's like, yeah. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're going to do all of these. And Brendan said, I've always wanted someone who I can be myself with, and hopefully I won't puke later. I'm like, Brendan, listen, this is Emily's thing. Because have y'all noticed that in most scenes, Emily has always had like some wine or something in her hand? I even heard her say in on the after party before that that's what she does. She always has like, because wine is her favorite, she always has some wine in her hand at most times. So if anyone needs to buckle up, it's definitely Brennan. All right, so after the breakfast, getting shots in the afternoon and moving on to the evening, I think that they just had like a little excursion on the beach. I think Emily again and Brennan are trying to figure out where they are and what lane they're in. I believe that Emily is in a lane that's going a little bit faster than Brennan, not because she's a party girl, but just because she is sexually attracted to Brennan. She's ready to consummate the marriage and just see where things go from there, versus Brennan being a little bit more relaxed, putting the brakes on and seeing if he could really trust Emily in the moment. All right, so let's move to Clare and Cameron. So Clare is up in the morning. She tells us in confessional she's a breakfast girl. And listen, Cameron needs to hurry up and get up, because by the time he gets up, it'll be time for her to eat and lay back down again. So when we finally see Clare and Cameron together at breakfast, I'm glad Clare is happy. She's cutting her breakfast. And listen, things already start to be a little bit shaky, even from the wedding night. But I think things have continued to be shaky on this honeymoon. Now, conversation comes up with Cameron in confessional saying that him and Clare had a conversation the night before, and it was about intimacy and touch, because I believe that Cameron wants to have that, not necessarily consummate the marriage, but at least have like a hug or to hold hands or something along that nature. And Clare just isn't ready, and she's just kind of like has that wall up. It's like, not right now, because to be honest, I don't think that Clare likes Cameron like that anyways. And yes, I did hear on the after party, and some of y'all said it too in the comments last week, that Cameron said that he preferred a slender woman. So if that conversation came up with Clare before, then that's probably what the standoffish is with Clare. And listen, we already had someone on another season talk about someone not being exactly slender or the way they thought they would be proportioned. And we see where that wedding went, and the vows and the relationship, it went nowhere. So, all right. So back to Cameron and Clare. So while they're having breakfast and just doing their beach activities, the vibe is just off. It's off. Clare is more like trying to be jokey and just with Cameron and to like try to lighten the mood. But Cameron seems to be more stiff, more on edge, and he's trying to open up. But I don't think his personality really opens up at all. Cameron gives me, and I didn't put it in last week's video, but I'll say it this week. Cameron gives me stiff. Cameron gives me stuck up, actually. He gives me like he gives a I'm a little bit better than you kind of vibe. I don't know. That's just what I give. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, but I just get that stiff, stuck up personality, snob personality, and I really don't want to put him in that box, but that's what he definitely gives to me. I mean, I'm not saying he's not open or anything like that. I just think that's the energy and the vibe that maybe he was used to before. So, and that's kind of shaped his personality. So when they go on their activity, they do kayaking. Clare goes out first, and then Cameron. I mean, they're not really even interacting. Really, she's doing her own thing, and Cameron is like trying to do a handstand on the kayak, and they're just making conversation. So after the activity, Claire's like, "Oh, you did good. I think we're trying to connect." I'm like, okay, I guess that's the right thing to say. So it doesn't get even more rocky as the day goes on, but it don't really work like that. So as they sit down and talk about, again, where they see things going and what they do for work, Clare tells Cameron again that she's in her final year of her master's for being a therapist. And then she said, "So you work on bikes, right?" Now, the way that Clare said that, I can see why Cameron would take a little bit of offense of that, because Clare didn't say it like soft. She was like, "Oh, so you work on bikes, like that's just something like regular or random, right?" And Cameron said, "Yes, I do. But you know what? I do what I love to do. I work on bikes, and people come to me, and every bike is different. So I may not have a master's degree, but come into bikes, I do." So then Clare tried to clean it up a little bit and was like, "Well, I understand if that's what you like to do. And I'm glad you can help people doing things differently like that." So, woo, the road with Clare and Cameron are rocky. So then when we move to the evening time when they have dinner, and I hope Clare got a nap because she said she was up waiting for Cameron for breakfast. So hopefully she got a nap between breakfast and dinner. Maybe that helped her out, her mood a little bit. So again, when they start talking, Cameron said, so what do you think about us? How do you think it's going? What about the connection? And Claire says, even though we're opposite people, opposites do attract. I think the connection, we're trying to get there. She said, matter of fact, I think you're goofy, and in a good way, because Cameron gave her this look like, goofy. Like, what do you mean goofy? He goes, Cameron said, I don't think I'm goofy, but again, if you have to over explain something to somebody, and yes, I know that they're strangers, but just in general, is not necessarily a good thing. That means someone, in my opinion, has taken a little bit of offense to just even the littlest things that you're saying, because it leads into conversation of being Claire and becoming a therapist full time. She tells Cameron, well, with my job, I have to deal with people all the time, their emotions and their feelings. So she says, have you ever been to therapy, Cameron? Cameron said that he had when he was a child. She goes, no. What about now? And Cameron said, no, I haven't gone as an adult, but if the opportunity ever arises and I feel the need, or if I'm ever put in that position, I will take the time to go to therapy. And Claire said, well, that sounds privileged. I'm like, this is the second time tonight we heard that word privilege. And I'm thinking to Claire about Claire and her reaction to privilege. I'm like, why would that be privilege to you? He said if he ever felt the need and ever presented the opportunity where he felt like he would have to go to therapy, then he would seek it out. And at least he said that he would, because most people feel that seeking out a therapist for any reason is a taboo subject. So I give Cameron kudos on saying that's what he would do if it came down to it. And then Claire immediately said, well, I disagree. And when she said that, I'm thinking, now, are you going to be like this to your patients, Claire, telling them that you disagree with the things that they're saying because it's not what you think or feel? Or are you going to be the therapist who's going to actually sit and listen to receive what your patients say to you and how they feel about certain situations before you respond? That's what I was really thinking with that scene. So, yeah, it goes back to, like I said, when it comes down to someone who you don't necessarily care for, don't feel their vibe or energy, if they say just the slightest thing to you, or just you hear a conversation, then it may come across, at least for me, that, you don't necessarily care what they have to say, or whatever they say just means, they could, like, it goes in one ear and out the other. That's what I'm getting from Claire and Cameron. Definitely not on the same page. Finally, let's move to Lauren and Orion. So Lauren and Orion, they start off at a spa. Orion is telling Lauren that, and they're telling each other really, that they feel safe with each other, that they can't believe the connection that they're feeling. It's so soon, so early, but they feel safe and like, you're my person and I'm your person. Lauren even says in confessional that before her mother passed on, she said that you want to be with a man that makes you feel safe and protected. So as they continue to talk, they talk about children and if they want to have any in the future, and even the possibility of adoption, because, there's children out there who need good homes, not just foster children, any child in any situation that needs to be adopted. And so Lauren and Orion say, yeah, I agree. I think that that's what we need, and the world needs, and I think that we'll be great parents. And even Orion said, I feel like you would be a great mother. You come across very warm, and that's what I need, that's what I needed in my childhood growing up. And right then and there, I thought about, now Orion has told us that he grew up in a matriarchy, which that would mean your grandmother, your great grandmother, your aunts, your mother, your sister, things like that. And so that makes me think that he didn't feel like warm at all, or maybe loved in a way that he wanted to be felt warm and loved, but he feels that vibe from Lauren, and that Lauren could give that to a child if that's what they did adopt later on in the future. Now, later in confessional, Orion also says that he's happy that the experts match him and Lauren, and he can understand why, just based off of the things they have in common for the time being, the adoption process, feeling safe and protective within each other's spaces. So later in the episode, we see after the spa, Lauren, it's a quick scene. Lauren and Orion are back in the hotel room. They have different clothes on to go out for the afternoon. So when Lauren is doing her hair, she's like, okay, I have to finish my hair up. She's laying her baby hairs down on the side of her face. And so Orion's like, oh, hey, can I watch you lay your baby hairs down? And he may not have used the word lay it down, or I forgot what he said, but she's like, what? What are you saying? So she kind of teased him about that. So she was like, sure. She goes, you take the gel, you take the comb, you just kind of like do your hair on the side, and this is what it looks like. And then Orion was saying to Lauren, he goes, oh, it's kind of the same thing when you do your hair or take pride in your hair, the same similar culture for my mom and sister. When we have powwows, it takes them like 2 hours to get their hair done, to get it pulled tight and everything like that. And Lauren said, oh, yeah, because they have long hair. So I can see how it would take 2 hours to do your hair. And for most women, if you get your hair done or you do it yourself, it does take a little bit of a time to get your hair done. So later in the so after that, not later episode, excuse me. So after they move to the beach, they're on a hammock and they're relaxing, and again they're vibing, and the sparks are still, for the time being now, in the air. Conversations turns to gender roles in the household, meaning who's gonna cook, who's gonna clean, the finances. So Lauren was saying, so do you believe in gender norms, or do you expect me to cook and clean every day? And Orion said, no, I can cook too. And Lauren said, oh, well, I'm glad, because I never had a partner before who really was able to cook or even wanted to take that role. And Orion said, no, we can split it up. It could be like, and then Lauren interjected, she goes, what, 60-40, 90-10. Orion then said 80-20. She goes, okay, good, I can do that. And so then when they got into finances, that's when the 80-20 also came up as well, is that because it was mentioned before that Orion lives at home. So I guess Lauren was trying to temperature check Orion as to like what he does with his money and how he would like support her. But Orion said he had no problem supporting Lauren. He goes, but the 80-20 will take a little bit of time to get there. And Lauren said, no, I understand completely. She goes, I understand it'll take time, but I just want to see where you were with that, with finances, because unless you mentioned it, I wasn't going to say anything about it. So, I mean, they came to a common ground on that. And then Lauren turned and said, you know what? You have very long, very sexy eyelashes. And he goes, I do. And then they shared a passionate kiss. Now, after that, they go to another activity, whether it be the same day or into the next day. They're back in another spa. And this time, conversation comes up again about what do you know, or what do you want to know more about me on the honeymoon that you don't know already, about culture. And so Lauren starts first. She says that, have you ever used the N-word, or do you still use it? And Orion said, no, I've never used the N-word. He said, but I did ignorantly sing it in songs when I was younger. And then my mom and my community checked me on that, telling me you're not supposed to be doing that. And so Lauren said, oh, well, can I punch you for my ancestors? He goes, oh, you probably be doing that a lot along the way. So Lauren gave him a little playful punch. And then the conversation came up about his culture and what is it that she doesn't know. And the word redskin came up, and Lauren said, oh, I don't know anything about that. I was ignorant to conversations about different cultures before, but I don't know what it is about a redskin. And then Lauren said, oh, looking at your face, because see, Orion has been out in the sun too. He had like a little red mark, and he was on his nose, and he was a little red from the sun. And so Orion looked at her and said, oh, that's tough. And Lauren said, oh my goodness. She goes, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it that way. I apologize if you took it that way, but I was just joking. And Orion sat there, he looked at her, he became tense, and Lauren recognized that he did, that his shoulders became tense, he became stiff, and he just like stopped speaking. And so Lauren said, well, I noticed the energy shifted. Like, what is it that I need to know? Like, what happened? Please tell me what I did wrong. So then Orion explained that the word redskin and what it was related to him and his community is about what happened many years ago with settlers came to the United States, that Native Americans were here and them being scalped and, along those lines with that history. And again, Lauren apologized, said, again, my ignorance, it wasn't meant to be personal. You know, I didn't mean it, just really trying to let Orion know that that is not what I meant. I'm sorry this happened in your history, in your culture. Can we move past this? Is there a way for we to move past it? And Orion's looking at her like, no, we can't. Like, my feelings are hurt. And so then Lauren said, you know what? I understand what you're saying. And it was about Lauren constantly apologizing and saying she understands what he's saying about his culture, because then Lauren moves to her culture, being African-American, saying, even though it's not the same, it's similar, because my people came here from Africa, from their land, over to America against their will to, be enslaved and do different things that's come along the way as years had gone past. And so I can relate with the hurt that comes with our ancestors. And Orion's still looking at her like, it's not the same thing. So then Lauren said, well, why can't you give me grace as a Black woman? But on the way here to the resort, when Cameron, being a white man, made a comment about being on a reservation, you didn't say anything about that then. And then Orion said, well, I can see ignorance. And Lauren's like, well, it's the same thing. If he didn't mean it and you can see ignorance. And what I said is along the same lines, because I definitely didn't mean it. And I actually apologized, and Cameron did not. Cameron just remained silent. Why, again, am I not getting the same grace? So I think it was such a double standard. And I also believe that Orion mentioned the word redskin first, and then Lauren, she didn't play into it, but the conversation led into it, which made it be what it is. But she again apologized. Now, I will say that I did see the after party where Orion was asked by Keisha if does he still feel the same way? Is the body, was the body language the same then as it is today? And Cameron stood his ground on that frustration. He said definitely that it was. So that was the end of that episode. All right. Well, next week we're going to see Lauren and Orion at dinner, and the energy of the conversation and are still the same. We're going to have Becca and Austin still connecting on a higher level, and they get into a conversation about dimming their candle, their flame, for another couple who may not have the same flame going on. And then we have Emily and Austin, where Emily and Brennan Brennan saying he's giving a little bit more trust to Emily. And Emily said, oh, I'm finally coming in the circle. And then Clare and Cameron still giving friend standoffish vibes. So, all right, everyone. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time, everyone, live simply, be grateful.